the purpose of this video is to take someone who has a good, solid, basic understanding of using AutoCAD and turn them into an advanced user. We're going to take into account a lot of the finer details and advanced tools available to us from AutoCAD. So we're going to start off looking at different drawing navigational tools. That way you'll be able to see what you want to see, when you want to see it, how you want to see it. We'll talk about using different viewports and different things like that and how to navigate inside your file so that you can get the most out of your time there. Then we're going to progress on and look at some advanced operations. We're going to learn how to use the application menu. We're going to show you some keyboard shortcuts that you can use, and with a little theory or practice that I call CAD with both hands. So you'll use your keyboard and your mouse to optimize your efficiency level in producing drawings and designs. We're also going to talk about using construction lines and rays and how to draw things with multi-lines, how to work with polylines and splines and edit them, grouping objects, and changing your view with a brand new customized user coordinate system. Then we're going to look at different advanced tools that you'll be able to use inside your drawing environment, like the Align and 3D Align, Lengthen, Join, Revision Clouds, how to filter out your selections so you can pick exactly what you want through a large data set. We'll also show you some of the different hidden tools that you may not know about, like the Quick Calculator, or how to select similar objects with just one click. We're also going to look at object visibility, how you can hide and isolate specific items so that you can have a cleaner drawing area to work in, how to set transparency for things so you can kind of fade them back a little bit, and how to control the way your lines are viewed through different scaling techniques. Now, what's a drawing without annotation? Well, you need to know how to control your text and your dimension styles and how you can share that amongst different drawings. And we're also going to talk about fields and how you can automate your text inside AutoCAD so that it will automatically tell you the information you need about your line. So you're working on a design for a house and you needed to have the square footage displayed in a note or call out somewhere. Well, as you change that design, you need that note to update. Well, using fields, that'll happen automatically. I also want to talk to you about a great tool called SheetSets. Now, SheetSets is a file management tool that's built inside AutoCAD, and it'll help you to create brand new drawings from scratch, share data amongst your coworkers, automate the creation of cover sheets listing all the sheets in your drawing set, automate updating of C sheets, other object drawings, properties, and how to publish all of the sheets in your set with just a couple of clicks. We're also going to learn how to output your drawings. So not everything is just CAD. A lot of times we have to print out our drawings or create a PDF or some sort of file that a third-party person can read, use, and understand. We're going to look at doing that. And AutoCAD is more than just lines and text. It's data. We're going to show how to use an XREF, how to attach or overlay and when you want to do that, how to visually display your reference data, and how to bind it into a file when you want to send it to somebody else. We're also going to show you how to link data from OLE objects. That means like Microsoft Word and Excel, and link them together so that when you update one, the other one will also automatically be updated. Now, there's a powerful tool inside AutoCAD called dynamic blocks. These dynamic blocks will give you an opportunity to make extremely fast changes to your designs with just a couple of little clicks and without having to redraw what you have. Now, if you're into programming and things like that, we're going to look at the action recorder and customizing other different things like your mouse buttons, your line types. We're also going to look at parametric constraints so that you can control the way your line work reacts to each other and how it stays intact. We'll show you how to do that as well. We're also going to look at file management, how to set up a template, how to save a template, how to manage a template file. We're also going to tell you about CAD standards and how to check your drawings to make sure those CAD standards have been met. One of my favorite parts inside this training video is the introduction to 3D design. In that part of the video, we're going to look at some of the basics of 3D modeling. We're going to look at modeling with solids, primitives, surfaces, and meshes. We'll look at Boolean edits, extruding commands, loft, revolve, slicing cross sections, and how to work with surfaces, meshes, and the 3D gizmos that are in there. Once you've learned how to model, we're going to show you how to render that model in a photorealistic way. We'll talk about the material libraries. We'll also look at 3D arrays, 3D selections, and how to quickly develop a 2D drawing from your 3D model using base views, cross sections, and other detailing tools inside AutoCAD. Then after that, we're going to kind of finish up with the cloud. Autodesk has provided a lot of different free cloud services where we can view drawings, share drawings, communicate from within drawings, use mobile applications, and web browser-based software that you can use to work on your files and to work with and share with other people. So let's go ahead and get started in this video if you haven't already. And again, my name's Brian Benton, and we're going to be spending some time together getting more tools from AutoCAD. Navigating AutoCAD files can be very difficult, especially in larger files, or ones where you're going to need to create a lot of different views. So while you're working in your files, you're going to want to save certain views or certain ways that you're looking at your specific drawing. Now that can serve many different purposes. One is to quickly return to a specific spot in the file. Another is to make sure that your viewport view is set the way you want it to in Paperspace. Another reason might be in your 3D file to set up a specific view with a specific visual style so that you can view that object. So let's open up the ice rink file drawing. It's just called ice rink example. And here we have an ice rink, and we're going to have this Paperspace view here, and we have another one. We're going to use this one right here. And what we want to do is create a drawing, and in this case, it shows the entire rink. But we also want to create one that shows the entrance. So what we're going to do is go back to Model Space, and we're going to use the View Manager. Just type in the word View on your command line. Now in the View Manager, it will show you all of the custom-made views that you've created in Model Space or in Layout Space or Paperspace, and it shows you all the preset views. Those are your top, bottom, left, right, front, back, and the isometrics. So to create a new one, you just come to the right and click on New. And here you give it a name. I'm going to call this North Entrance. Now, most of the default settings you're going to just always leave the same. Now, what you can do is pick between some of the different views or UCSs that you have already set up. Right now, it's just set up in world coordinates, and that's fine. Now, if you've created cross sections, you can pick from those. You can also change the different visual style. I just want it to keep it in the current visual style that it is. But for this view, I definitely want it to be drawn in 2D wireframe because that's what this drawing is going to be. So you can assign that, and I'm going to. I can change the background color if I want, but I'm just going to leave it as default. So I'm going to pick on this button right now where I can define the view window. Left click, and then it brings you to your drawing. And wherever that black area is, on my screen, that's showing me where my view is set. That's where it's going to be at. Well, I'm going to zoom in because I want it to be this entrance. So I just left click somewhere and I just draw a rectangle with 2 points, and that's created. So you can see how the black area changed. Everything else is gray. This area is black. So you can zoom in and pan around with your mouse while you're doing this. So if you like that view, just press your Enter key. But if you don't, you just click again and then click again and you get the area that you want. Well, I want to get this entire area here of my entrance. That's what I'm looking for. So now I press Enter. And then when you're finished, click OK. And when you've created your view, it shows up right here. So it tells you in Model View, I have this one called North Entrance. I click OK. Now when I'm here, I can just type in the word View, or when you're anywhere in your file, select the view that you want to go to and pick the Set Current option and click OK. And that'll take you right there. So that's one great way to navigate to a specific spot. Now I can also make up one. Let's call this one Rink 1. I'm going to define my view, and let's say that this is Rink 1. So I do my 2 clicks, press Enter, click OK. Click OK. And I'm going to show you another way to navigate. Go to your in-canvas controls. Should default to top because we're making a 2D drawing. That's typically good CAD practice. That's what you do. I have all of my other presets, but I have my custom model views. So I can come here and click Rink 1. Boom, I can get to Rink 1 right away. Or if I want to get to my North Entrance, I can get right there. Do the work on my drawing, or maybe it's for a presentation, and I can do that. Now, another thing that you might want to do is create your viewport. So just type in the word Viewports, Press enter. Let's pick single. Okay. And I'm going to put it right here. And when I zoom in and double click on this viewport to activate it, I have my in-canvas controls again. Select custom model and north entrance, and it zooms me in right there. So now I have a little blown up detail of my entrance. Now another thing you might want to do for your view is to press enter, create new. Let's call this plot. And we're going to define the view window. And I'm just going to pick everything inside this box right here. Press enter. Okay. Okay. Let's zoom out so we can see everything. And now when you go to print, just type in the word plot. I only want to do a single sheet here. And you can plot not just to layout or display or extents, but plot to view. Now that's a very typical CAD practice. You can click on this. I'm going to find a printer here that I can print to, and then click preview. And you get a preview of your drawing, what it's going to look like on paper. Cancel out of that. So that's another use for your print. If we open up our robot 3D drawing, we can also create a view here for a 3D object. Call it new. Let's call it front real. And I'm going to assign a visual style of realistic. Pick my window. Press return. Click OK. Click OK. So now when you come back to your drawing, to your 3D model in this case, you can be in any view that you'd like or in any visual style. Just come up to your in-canvas controls, go to custom model view, and in this case, we're going to click front real, and it will give us a front view with a realistic visual style because that's what we've set up. So you can create saved views for a lot of different reasons, for a lot of different purposes, and for a lot of different uses. One reason you might want to set up a specific view with a specific visual style is because you're going to render an image and you want to make sure that visual style is actually the one applied to your render. In this case, that's what we wanted to do. You also want to use it to navigate, to create paper space, views in your viewports, and another option is to print to that specific view. Sometimes you can't quite see your drawing the way you want to. Maybe the drawing just doesn't fit in your viewport and paper space and you want it rotated. Well, that's not a problem. You can just turn your screen over on its side. Well, not literally, of course, but with a twist. So let's open up one of our files. Let's look at the model beam clamp angle file. This is a 3D model, and it's something I drew up as a project years ago. Here's a metal beam, and this is just a 2x6 piece of wood right here. And what they wanted to do is actually in a facility that stores boats in a dry slip. That's what it's called. And they stack the boats on these pieces of wood, and they have metal beams for framework, and they needed to be able to mount this wood to the beam. So that's what these clamps and things are here that you can see. Well, let's say I needed to show this in a drawing at a very specific view. Now, I can go to my top view or whatever I need to do in paper space. One thing that I can do, as I just showed you there, is the 3D orbit command. I can get to that in a couple of different ways. My preferred way is what I feel is the simplest. Hold down the shift key and hold down the middle mouse button. Just press them both at the same time and hold them down and move your mouse left and right. That'll rotate it. And if you move it up and down, it'll rotate it this way. And if you do it in conjunction, it'll rotate them in multiple different axes at the same time. And so this is a great way to get a different view of your drawing. Now, where 3D orbit is fun, it lacks precision. And you can use it in any view. You can use it in model space, or you can go to paper space. So here I have paper space. It's on the layout tab number 1, and I have a viewport. I can use my 3D orbit here again and try to get the view that I want, but getting it exact can be rather difficult. And one thing you can do is go to your custom views and pick top, front, bottom, left, right, that sort of thing. Well, let's say that what you want to do is to just show this, but at 45 degrees, like it's rotated. Well, that's really difficult to do with the 3D orbit command. So I'm going to put it back in the top view. And if I have it in top view, but let's say I don't want it oriented this way. Maybe I want the wooden beam here to go up and down and the metal beam to go left and right. Well, I don't have any views here that will do that. I can go top, left, right. I can look at it from the back, or I can look at it in a specific isometric view. But I can't rotate this. So what I'm going to do is use a command called DView. So I type in the word DView. Now, DView isn't in the ribbon anymore. It's an older command, but it still works. And you can use this for 3D objects or 2D objects. Type in DView, press enter. Now you have to select something. Now I can pick anything in here. I can pick one thing. I can pick all of the things. It really won't matter because the entire view is going to be rotated. So I select everything in this case and I press enter. Now I have several different options. I can go to a camera view or a target or a specific distance or a point, etc. So you can see I have a lot of these are my options, but I'm going to use twist. So you can type in TW or you can just pick twist in the command line. Now it starts off just like AutoCAD's rotate command. This is at the perfectly horizontal option. That's at 0 degrees. Now I can tell it where to rotate just by moving my mouse and clicking, or I can type in a command or an angle. I'm going to type in 45, so it makes it very easy for you to see. So it's going to rotate from here in this horizontal position on the right side of my screen up 45 degrees. So it's going to put it right about there. So I'm going to press enter, and that's my view. Now, the really cool thing about this is that once you press enter, I'm out of the command. You can see I'm rotated 45 degrees. If I go to model space, it didn't affect my model view whatsoever. So I can spin this one around here, all that I'd like, go back to my paper space tab, and in my viewport, it's still good. So if I double click inside this paper space tab again, I can type in the word plan, world, and it will put it back. I'm going to undo that. Another thing you can do is type in DView again, select something. Now, when you select something, that's all you're going to see in the preview. So you select it, press enter. That's why I typically like to select a lot of things or all of the things if appropriate. If I type in TW again for twist, now I can put it back to where my angle was before. So if I type in 0, it puts me back to angle 0. Press enter, and everything's rotated back the way it was. Now, the thing about DView twist is, remember, the angles are absolute. So if I say I want it at 0 degrees, it puts it back at the normal top view. If I say I want it at 90 degrees, it'll be rotated 90 degrees. If I say 45 degrees, it goes to 45 degrees. Now, it's not 45 degrees from where it currently is. It's at the 45 degrees set mark. So think of this as being at 0, 45, 90, 180, 270, 360, etc. Those are absolute values, or settings. So remember that. You can also do this in model space or in any viewport that you have. So this is a quick and easy way to set your drawing view at a very specific angle so that you can look at it the way you really need to. You've probably used viewports and paper space in your drawings before, and we've just started in this video series, but we've already used them a couple of times. But have you ever used them in model space? If so, then great. If not, well, they're not exactly what you think they are. Viewports have been in AutoCAD for a very long time. Paper space has only had them since around AutoCAD release 11. Not 2011, but release 11. So when I started using AutoCAD, we didn't even have paper space. I'm glad it was added, and it makes things a lot easier. But we're going to take a look at using viewports in 2 different files. I want to show you a trick that you could use to help out when working with a 2D drawing, and a trick that you can use to help you out when working with a 3D file. First, let's open up the Isometric example file. Click open. Now, we are currently in a viewport. It's a model space viewport. In paper space, that viewport gives you a view of what's in your model. Now, viewports in model space do that too, but it's not for drawing purposes. It's for modeling purposes. Model space is where your model goes, your information. And paper space is where your drawing information goes. That's your view, your title blocks, things like that. And then you have your viewport in that paper space to look at your model data. This allows you to work from different perspectives simultaneously and to create different drawings. And when you're in model space, it gives you multiple perspectives of the exact same model. And what you do in one viewport, it's done in the other. It's very useful when modeling 3D objects or when working on very large projects. When you start your drawing, it'll have model space in it and it will have one viewport, just a single. Now you can work with as many as up to 4 or even more at a time. It divides your drawing up onto the screen. So to get to this, we type in Viewports. This gets you to your Viewports center here. There are controls for it. Now what you can do is create one single viewport, and you use the same thing in Paperspace. So if you want to create a new viewport in Paperspace, you just type in Viewports, click single, and you've created it. Now in Model Space, you have the options of breaking up your Model Space view into 1 viewport, 2, 3, or 4 viewports. So if we go to 2 vertical or 2 horizontal, you can see it'll split your screen up this way. I'm going to click OK. So now I have 2 different viewports. The one that is current right now has this blue border around it, and you'll see your crosshairs. When I move my mouse to the other viewport, it's just a pointer. That means it's not current. To make it current, just left click on it. You'll also see your UCS icon if you have that turned on, and your in-canvas controls. Now when I'm in here, and if I select an object in that viewport, you'll see that it's selected in the other one as well. Now I can zoom in right here, and I can see what's going on, and I can work in detail on whatever it is I need to work on. At the same time, I can see how it's affecting my entire model. So this is great. One thing that I will do when I work this way is that if I have to work in a detailed section or in 2 different sections at the exact same time, so maybe I need to see what's going on this rink, but I want to work in this top rink. I want to make sure that they work together, that they look the same, and that I can get to one or the other very quickly. So let's say that this bottom rink wasn't created, that I didn't have this line work. Now what I could do is, since I have this one here, I could copy it, paste it, but I have to go back and forth quite a bit. So let's just say I'm here. I can select these objects just by picking on them, and I can use the copy command. I'm going to copy it from the center of this arc. Now I'm right here. I have this copy. I can take the time to zoom out, pan around, and zoom back in, and you can see whatever I have to do is going to show up there. Or while I'm working here, I copy it, I just come to this viewport, and I'm instantly there. Now this drawing site isn't extremely large, but it is quite big. And so I can use that to go back and forth very quickly to see what I'm doing in one spot while working in another. Now you can type in Viewports, or you can type in Viewports. Either way, it'll get you to the same place. So now that I have these 2 viewports created, let's say that I want 3 of them created instead. And let's make them vertical. Click OK. You can see it doesn't change my drawing any, it just changes the way I'm looking. And then I can position my line work here however I want. Now I do have some controls over the viewports here. If I hover over, I'll get these double arrows. If I left click, I can stretch it, making one larger and the other smaller. If I come up to one of these X's, you can see here that I can control these that way. If I hold down the control key and left click on one of the borders, I can very quickly create a new viewport. And those viewports are easily adjusted still. Now if I want to put them back, or go to a different configuration, or just go to single, just click it, the one I want, and I'm back. Now let's open up the model beam clamp angle file again. Now I'm working in this file, and maybe I'm panning around, going to different views here. I'm going to the top view, I'm doing some work. I need to go to the left view. I need to go back to the top view. You can spend a lot of time doing that, but I can go to Viewports, and let's say I want 4 equally sized different viewports. I can go like this with right, so I can see my different views and then have a main one that I want. I can go left or right. I'm going to go 4 equal. Now I can set these up in a lot of different ways. I can apply it to the display or my current viewport, which means if I'm in a viewport, it'll break it down even more. I can set this up to work in 2D or a 3D environment. And when I do, it will default with your standard 3D views, top, front, right, and an isometric, which is what I had in mind. And you can change your visual style to something else. I'm going to say shaded with edges. Now you can see this one is selected and it says shaded with edges. So now I need to click on here and I can make it shaded with edges. This one, I'm going to make it shaded with edges. And in the top right, I'm going to make it conceptual. When I click OK, I can see a nice isometric drawing here. I have my top view, my front view, and my right view. Now I can work in one of these, and as I zoom, pan, or whatever, it doesn't change any of these other views. But when I select an object, and let's say I change it, as I move this, you can see in the other views, my model is affected, and I can see very easily how it's affected. When I finish my change, press the escape key to unselect it, and you can see that I have made a change to my entire model. And it was very easy to visualize that as I was working. So using different viewports in model space helps you to visualize your model, your objects, your drawing in different ways that might make it a lot easier to work. So in this chapter, we're kind of taking a look at some of the tools that you can use to navigate around inside your AutoCAD file. Now, these tools helped us to get to different views in our drawings or to make things look a specific way. Now, they're great for precision, but most of the time you just need to get from one place to another very quickly, and you don't really care if you have everything exactly the way you want it to be, so you just need to get to a spot close enough or good enough to do your work, and you want to get there fast. So there are a lot of different navigation tools that you can use for this. Now, you already know zoom and pan. So if you use your mouse with the scroll wheel, you zoom in and out just by scrolling the wheel back and forth. You can just roll it, and that zooms you in and out. And if you pan, to do that, you can just click and hold your mouse wheel. The little pan hand comes up, and you can move around. That's going to get you everywhere you need to go, probably about 90% of the time. But you have a couple of other different things that you can use. One of them here is the nav bar. Now, if your nav bar isn't turned on, just type in nav bar on your command line, press enter, and pick the on option. Now, there are a couple of different tools in here that you can use, but it's going to be easier if we have a file open. So let's open up the model beam clamp drawing. Like I said before, you can pan around, you can zoom, and you'll do that about 90% of the time. But we have a couple of other tools. One of them is the navigation wheel. So you come to your nav bar and you can just click on the nav wheel and that will pop up. And it'll go where your mouse is so you can move it around on your screen wherever you need to. And you have different options right here. Now you can zoom. So you left click and hold it and you can do a real-time zoom. Zoom in and out just by moving your mouse. Release it and there you go. You can do a pan, similar. Just the same way, left click and hold and move your mouse around. You can orbit, left click, and then move your mouse around. Remember, it's left click and hold. You can rewind, left click and hold. This will take you back to some of your other views that you had before. These are 4 options that you have really quickly. Now you can use your center tool here, left click and hold, and it'll center that. You can use your walk. It's kind of like a real-time pan. Left click and hold, and then move your mouse in a specific direction. Up and down will take it up and down, and if you kind of go to left and right, it'll kind of rotate it around slowly. Now, to get out of here, just click on that plus sign that you saw there. Now, you see the little flyout arrow here. You have different options. You have your full navigation wheel, which is what we just saw, your mini full navigation wheel, which is the same thing, but it's a little bit smaller. And to get to the commands, you just rotate around to this different pie. And you just get to the piece you want and click on it. You have the mini view object wheel. That's in mini mode. We'll go back to full mode. See, that's your mini object. This is just your specific views. Your pan mode, rewind, zoom, and orbit. Your mini tour, that's the walk, look, and rewind, and so on and so forth. You can have your basic view or your basic tour building wheel or your 2D wheel. Your 2D wheel is just a zoom, pan, and rewind, and that works the same way. So you have a lot of different options here, and whichever one you pick last, that's the one that's going to default in the icon. Most of the time, the full one will get you access to everything you need. Now you see here I have this little flyout. If you click it, again, you can get to those different options. Same as the nav bar. Now, in your nav bar, reset this to our top view. You also have the pan and zoom options. You can click on the little hand here, and that's your pan command. Now the zoom, if you click on the flyout, gives you access to all of your zoom controls. You have zoom extents, you have zoom window, you have zoom previous. That'll take you back to your last zoom. Zoom real time, you just left click and hold, move your mouse back and forth. Zoom all, and again the rest. The zoom dynamic, scale center, object, zoom in, and you have zoom out. It just zooms out just a little bit. I don't use these too often myself because I can do most of that just with my scroll wheel on my mouse. But they're there if you don't like using it, or if your mouse isn't working right, or you're just not comfortable using your scroll wheel. Now you have here also orbit commands. You have the flyout, you have orbit, free orbit, and continuous orbit. If I click on the orbit, it's just your regular 3D orbit. Left click and hold, and it zooms around the center of your screen. You can press enter or escape to get out of it. Now we have free orbit. This will allow you to orbit in a little bit more controlled pattern and around specific axes. So that one's really nice. I like doing that one. And continuous orbit. You just sort of left click, grab, and toss it to the side. You drag your mouse to the side and it puts up this 3D continuous orbiting object. So why would you use this? Well, you can set this up just as a display on your computer, or if you need to just keep looking at your object in some way, you can. So it might be good for modeling purposes. And you can make it orbit, of course, just about anywhere and at different speeds. You can press escape to get out of there. Now, if you have a 3D mouse from 3D Connections, this button here will help you get to that. You can get to your different controls you use with it, and it lets you control it a little bit easier. I don't have one set up right now, so I can't really demonstrate that to you. Now here in this last one is your show motion. This provides access to different on-screen displays that you can use. If I left click on it, it'll take me to my nav motion commands, the show motion commands. And I'm not going to get into those in depth right now, but these nav bar controls are another way to help you manipulate the views of your drawing and get you where you need to be able to see your model, to see your line work, and to be able to work at it from a different angle. The biggest task in AutoCAD is the design work, drawing lines, arcs, objects, dimensions, etc. But before you can do any of that, you have to be in the right file and you need to be in the proper command. The application menu, which I like to refer to as the big red A, is there to help you out with these things. Now, the big red A, or the application menu as it's really called, is found in the top left corner of the screen. Now, older versions of AutoCAD, it looked more like an A. Now it kind of looks like an origami A, but I still call it the big red A. The big red A is found here in the top left corner of the screen, and you click on it to open it up. Now, most of the tools here are very obvious what they are, like new, open, save, save as, print. These things you're going to use quite often. And when you hover over any one of these commands, it puts a list of additional commands on the right column here. So these are great. So if you want to start something new, like a new drawing or a new sheet set, you can come here. You can also click on these arrows to make sure that this list pops out and populates on your screen, just in case it doesn't. So I can go right here to open, click on the arrow, and I can open a drawing. I can open a drawing from the cloud, from a sheet set, or a DGN file, or some sample files from the internet. Save a file, I can do a save as, etc. But there are a couple of things on here that you might not see right away. Right down here is the Exit AutoCAD button. I click this and it closes out all my files and I'm done. If I click on this Options button, that brings up my AutoCAD options. These options have a lot of different customizable settings that I can use to make sure AutoCAD's running the way I want it to. But two other things that I want to show you are the drawing lists and the command search. So the drawing list is right here by default. Before you select any of these commands, the drawing list will be populated in the right column. So right here is my recent documents. These are files that I've had open recently, the last 8 or so files that I've worked with. You can order them in a lot of different ways. If you click on these two buttons here, that will give you some options. I can order that like a list. I can order it by access date, which is something you might like, and it's one thing that I use often, by file size or by file type. Now this option here shows how they're displayed. Small icons, large icons, small images, which is actually really nice because then you get a preview of what the drawings look like. Or you can go even to larger images. I typically use this type of small icon because when I hover over it, it'll give me a preview of my file. So that's a great way to find files that you've worked on recently. Now let's say there's something that you had opened and you want to keep working on it. Maybe it's the base file or the main file for a project you're working on right now. And so you're going to need to get to it every day. Because one of the problems with the recent documents list is as you open files, it keeps it up here and then it knocks the rest of them out. So it's possible you just needed to go to a few files to get something really quickly or to look at it as an example or something like that. But it's not really what you're working on. So what you can do is come here to the right side. And if you click on this little push pin, it's called pinning it. And it will lock this item into your list. So if I open up something else and eventually all these get pushed down the list until they're removed, these items won't. They'll stay in the list. They'll stay pinned. So that's a really great way to help you manage the files you're working on to give you quick and easy access to it. You get to this list by clicking right here, Recent Documents. Now, there's another list. It's called Open Documents. If you click on it, it'll show you all the files that you have open right now. And you can get to any of them just by clicking on the file list. I click it and I'm right here. I'm in my drawing file that I wanted to get to. And again, you have options right here, just the same way as before, to manage those. I typically leave it here because that's the way I usually work. Another great feature of the application menu is the ability to find commands with it. It's especially helpful when you're not sure the exact name of the command or have any idea where it is that you can find it, on the ribbon, in a toolbar, or wherever. So if you come up to the application menu, click in this little field box here, you see the little magnifying glass that tells you it's the search command. And you just type in the name of the command. And once you do, AutoCAD will automatically populate that command for you. And it tells you where it is. So you see here the best match, a ribbon match, and it tells you other various locations of where it can be found. So it tells you right here, it's in the ribbon tab, on home, draw, and then line. You can also just start the command just by clicking it, whatever the command is. And now you can draw a line. So that's a great way to find the command that you need, to find out where it is, find out what's going on, and what files you're using with the application menu and things like that. So the big red A, or the application menu, is a great tool to help you get to some basic commands, to manage the files that you're working with, and to find commands if you don't know where they're at. I have a theory about CAD. The less you do, the quicker you can get it done. It makes sense when you think about it. It might even border on the line of being absurd. Of course, you're going to get done more quickly if you have less things to do. But that's the whole point of this little lesson right here. I call this one Two-Handed CAD Theory. And I call this section CAD with both hands. Now, the gist of it is to use your left and right hand both at the same time while you CAD. Now, there are two major forms of input in AutoCAD. The mouse, you can see me moving my cursor around here. I'm doing that by moving the mouse. And then you have the keyboard, when I can type in lots of different things on the keyboard and get to a lot of different commands and things like that. So many old school CAD users grew up using CAD and DOS like I did. Now, we didn't have icons like these up here or these toolbars or all these palettes. We didn't have the application menu and all this. We had what was called the menu bar, which you could still get to. And we had the command line, which we still have, and you use keyboard inputs with that. And a lot of us even had a big giant tablet. And the tablet is where we had our toolbars and icons and our ribbon. It was right there. And we used a stylus or a puck, not a mouse. And all the commands were in a space on that tablet. And you had to move your cursor or you move your puck, your stylus, onto that physical location and click. Just like you do with AutoCAD right now, but you do it on the screen and not on an external real-life physical tablet. Now, the problems that gave was that you had to stop looking at the screen and look at your hand where you were going on the tablet. Now, eventually what happened is your body had this muscle memory so that you could move your puck or your stylus, whatever it was you were using, to the exact location for the command you wanted. Your body just remembered how far and where to move your arm at. That's kind of what I want to talk about now. You're going to get that by moving your mouse on your screen every day and all day long to get to all these different commands. Now that's going to be great, and that's going to help you to become more efficient. When you have to stop hunting for the commands, you'll be able to find them more quickly, and so you'll be able to get your work done more quickly. Now you can interface with CAD however you want to, in whatever way is most comfortable. That's one of the most beautiful things about AutoCAD. The bottom line is that you get your work done, and you get it done as quickly and as efficiently as you can. Now in two-handed CAD, users take advantage of the command line and the mouse, both. So you can turn off your ribbon even, you can turn off all toolbars, all menus, all palettes, etc., and you can still get to every command in AutoCAD through the command line. I'm not suggesting that's what you do. In fact, I use a bit of a hybrid method myself. I typically keep the properties palette open all the time, because when I select anything, it gives me all the information I need or can work with on that and can manipulate it that way. I also get to a lot of less frequently used commands through the ribbon, specifically when I'm annotating something, or I'm using one of these manage options, or I need to get to some views or maybe some express tools. But most of the time I keep it here on the home tab. I want to show you how to draw a 5x5 box that we're going to draw in an isometric cube, a 5x5x5 cube. And I'm only going to use one hand. I'm going to use just the mouse, and you can do that, and that works, and it gets the job done. I'm going to only input on the keyboard when I need to input the lengths or the size of the cube. So here we go. Come up to the home tab, go to my rectangle command, I left click, and I move back down here. So I'm going to pick a spot somewhere, and I'm going to draw it as a 5x5 rectangle, which will be a square when I press enter. So now what I want to do, I just want to make a basic, real quick isometric. So now I'm going to use the copy command. Come up here, select the copy, come down here, select my box, right click for enter, pick a point, and I'm just going to move it just for movement's sake, and then press enter. So now I'm going to draw lines connecting all of these items here. So I go up to the line command. My O snaps are on, so that's good. That helps me save time. And I go there. Right click again, start the command again for the line. And there we go. See, nice and simple, not difficult to do, of course, but there was a lot of back and forth. So you see, I'm going back and forth and back and forth. Well, now I'm going to use two hands. So I'm going to type in REC for rectangle, 5x5, type in CP for copy, and then type in L for line, and there. So the biggest differences between these two methods was that on this method, when I'm just using my mouse and I'm using the ribbon, I'm going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now, it really only takes another second to do that. So each time I had to do a command, I added 4 to 6 seconds to my drawing that I had to do. Well, here, because I didn't, and I can just typing in everything very quickly, I wasn't going back and forth. I never took my eyes off what I was drawing. It was much easier to concentrate. And I got it done just a fraction of a second more quickly. Yes, absolutely. However, that builds up over time. Throughout the course of a day, if you work 8 hours a day and you can save seconds on everything that you're doing, you can get that much more done and you can work more efficiently. Now, every command in AutoCAD has a keyboard equivalent. Some are long, like data extraction or data link, or a lot of these other big ones. But some of them are really short, like the line command. Just type in L. I don't expect you to memorize the keyboard shortcut for every command. That's just absurd. You can print out a list that's in the PGP file. If you go to your Manage tab and go to the Customization panel, and you see the Edit Aliases option right here, click on that. That will open up a text file that opens up your acad.pgp file. It'll open it up in Notepad. If you scroll down here all the way to the bottom past all these semicolons, you'll see here a list of all the command shortcuts. So 3A is a command shortcut for 3D array. And you see some of these aren't really shortcuts, but there are ways to get to other old archived commands. You see A is for arc, AC is for action, ADC is for your AD center, etc. We'll scroll down through this list and you can see there are quite a few. So you could print this out actually, and I know people that have. So you can study it a little bit and find the commands that you want to use more effectively. You can also customize this list too. Now, another great thing about AutoCAD is that as you start to type something out, if you have dynamic input on, it will start to auto-populate these lists. It'll even auto-correct some of your misspellings. So if you've misspelled something, that'll put it in there for you. And then you can just click on the command from that list. If you have dynamic input turned off, it'll do the exact same thing in the command line for you. And just remember, try to use both hands as much as possible to help you speed up your work. Moving the mouse all over the screen takes a lot of time and effort. Now, when you get really good with typing on the keyboard with just one hand, you'll be able to move much more quickly. This is something that's going to take some time. That will have to help you to get more comfortable with it, absolutely, because it might be a different way than what you're used to working with. And if you're not very good at keyboard typing, it might not be quicker for you, and that's okay. Again, use AutoCAD to the best of your ability in however method is more comfortable to you. This is one that I have found that works well for me, and I know it works well for other people as well, and I suggest it's something you try to do.